Most people believe their apartment feels small because of the walls, the furniture, or the lack of storage, but the real problem is often hiding in plain sight on their shelves. A crowded shelf quietly steals breathing space from a room. When every inch is packed with books, baskets, decorations, cables, souvenirs, and random daily items, the eyes never get a moment to rest. Interior designers have understood this secret for years, which is why luxury apartments and elegant homes rarely display everything at once. They use controlled spacing to create a feeling of openness, even in compact spaces. This is where the one-shelf rule changes everything. Instead of filling every shelf completely, one shelf is intentionally left light, clean, or partially empty to create visual balance throughout the room. At first, this sounds too simple to make a difference, yet studies in environmental psychology have repeatedly shown that visual clutter increases mental stress and makes spaces appear smaller than they actually are. Researchers from Princeton University found that too many visual objects compete for human attention, making the brain feel overloaded even when a person is trying to relax. That explains why some apartments instantly feel peaceful, while others feel exhausting after only a few minutes. The difference is not always money or square footage. It is often organization and visual breathing space. Imagine walking into a tiny apartment where every shelf is overflowing with stacked items, mismatched decor, tangled wires, and crowded corners. Now compare that to another apartment with the exact same size, but where shelves contain only carefully selected objects with visible empty space surrounding them. The second apartment immediately feels brighter, cleaner, and more expensive. The eyes move naturally across the room without tension. This effect is not accidental. Designers intentionally use negative space, which simply means empty visual areas that allow furniture and decor to stand out without competition. The one-shelf rule applies this professional concept in a practical and affordable way that anyone can use at home. Instead of buying more storage containers or larger furniture, the goal becomes reducing visual pressure. One shelf may contain only a small plant, 2 books, and a candle. Another shelf may display one framed photo with empty space around it. The room suddenly begins to breathe. Small apartments especially benefit from this technique because every visible surface affects the overall feeling of space. Many people unknowingly turn shelves into storage units rather than design features. Over time, items continue to accumulate because shelves feel convenient for quick placement. Eventually, the apartment starts feeling tight and heavy without the owner understanding why. The surprising part is that removing even 20% of visible shelf items can dramatically improve the atmosphere of a room. Some interior stylists even follow a 70% rule, meaning shelves should never appear completely full. This creates rhythm, softness, and visual calm. The best part is that this transformation does not require expensive renovations, professional organizers, or large apartments. It starts with one shelf, one decision, and one intentional empty space that completely changes how a home feels. At this point, many people become excited and immediately begin removing random objects from their shelves. But this is where an important mistake often happens. Simply creating empty space is not enough if the remaining items still feel chaotic, disconnected, or visually heavy. Interior designers carefully control not only how much is displayed, but also what remains visible after decluttering. This is where the true power of the one-shelf rule begins to reveal itself. The shelf is no longer treated as a storage area. It becomes part of the room's visual architecture. Every visible item either supports a calm atmosphere or quietly destroys it. One of the biggest reasons small apartments feel crowded is because shelves often contain too many competing colors, shapes, and object sizes placed together without intention. The brain constantly processes these visual signals, creating hidden tension inside the room. Experts in home styling frequently recommend grouping similar items together because organized repetition creates harmony, while random mixtures create stress. For example, books placed vertically beside a small plant and one neutral decorative object appear balanced and elegant, while 10 unrelated objects squeezed together feel messy even when technically organized. This difference may seem subtle, but it dramatically changes how people emotionally experience a space. Research from UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives and Families discovered that cluttered home environments can increase stress hormones and reduce feelings of relaxation inside living spaces. This explains why some people continue cleaning their apartment repeatedly without ever feeling satisfied. The problem is not always dirt, it is visual overload. The one-shelf rule interrupts that overload by introducing controlled simplicity. However, there is another hidden layer to this method that most people never expect. Interior designers understand that empty space itself acts like decoration. A partially empty shelf draws attention to the remaining objects, making them appear more valuable, intentional, and sophisticated. Luxury hotels, modern cafes, and high-end apartments often use fewer visible items because spaciousness creates emotional comfort. In contrast, crowded shelves subconsciously signal disorder, even if everything is technically arranged. Here is where suspense enters the trail. NS formation process, because many apartment owners fear that removing visible items will make their home look boring, unfinished, or lifeless. Surprisingly, the opposite happens. When shelves become lighter, the apartment begins to feel more mature and visually expensive. Light reflects more naturally across surfaces. Walls become more noticeable. Furniture gains stronger presence. Even older apartments start appearing refreshed without changing the flooring or paint. Some designers call this the gallery effect because empty space allows objects to stand out like artwork in a museum. Suddenly, one candle looks elegant instead of forgettable. One frame photograph feels emotional instead of lost among clutter. One ceramic vase creates character because it finally has room to breathe. The most surprising transformation often happens emotionally. People begin feeling calmer in their own home without understanding exactly why. Morning routines become less stressful because the environment feels lighter. Small apartments no longer create the same sense of pressure after a long workday. Visitors quietly notice the difference too. They often describe the apartment as clean, peaceful, modern, or spacious even when the square footage remains exactly the same. This is the hidden psychological advantage behind designer spaces that many people mistakenly believe are only achievable with large budgets or expensive furniture. In reality, the secret often begins with removing rather than adding, simplifying rather than decorating, and understanding that intentional emptiness can completely reshape how a home feels. The final step of the one-shelf rule is where small apartments experience the biggest transformation because this is the moment when organization turns into lifestyle rather than temporary cleaning. Many people successfully declutter once, enjoy the fresh appearance for a few days, and then slowly allow shelves to become crowded again through daily habits. A package gets placed on the shelf for convenience, a receipt pile begins growing in the corner, another decorative item gets added during shopping, and within weeks the breathing space disappears without notice. Interior designers avoid this cycle by treating shelves as visual boundaries instead of unlimited storage zones. Every object must own its place. This mindset completely changes how people interact with their living space. Instead of asking where to place new items, the better question becomes whether the shelf still feels calm after adding something new. If the answer is no, something else must leave. This simple habit protects the openness that makes apartments feel larger and more elegant over time. Designers also recommend rotating decorative objects seasonally rather than displaying everything at once. A home does not need every memory, souvenir, or accessory visible every day. Some items can rest in closed storage while selected pieces remain on display with intention. This creates freshness without overcrowding. Another powerful technique involves choosing objects with lighter colors or reflective surfaces because they naturally increase brightness and visual openness. Neutral tones, glass containers, small plants, and minimal frames often create a softer atmosphere compared to dark, bulky, or heavily textured decorations. Lighting also plays a major role. A shelf with proper lighting and limited objects instantly appears cleaner and more spacious than a crowded shelf hidden in shadows. Even small apartments with limited natural light can benefit from warm lamps placed strategically near organized shelves. Suddenly the room begins feeling inviting rather than compressed. Professional home stagers frequently use these exact methods before photographing apartments for sale because clean shelves psychologically increase the perceived value of a property. Buyers and guests emotionally connect with spaces that feel open and breathable. The fascinating part is that the apartment itself has not physically changed size at all. The transformation happens inside human perception. The brain interprets openness as comfort, safety, and cleanliness. That is why minimal luxury apartments often feel larger than cluttered homes with twice the square footage. The one-shelf rule works because it quietly teaches discipline, intention, and visual balance without requiring perfection. A shelf does not need to become empty or cold. It simply needs enough breathing space for the room to relax visually. Over time, this habit can influence the entire apartment. Counters stay cleaner, tables collect less clutter, shopping habits become more intentional. People start appreciating quality over quantity because they finally see the emotional power of space itself. The apartment begins feeling less like a storage unit and more like a peaceful retreat from outside stress. Many viewers may try this method tonight and notice an immediate difference after organizing only one visible shelf. That single change often inspires an entire home transformation, because once people experience visual calm, they no longer want to return to overcrowded living. Small apartments stop feeling limiting and start feeling elegant, functional, and welcoming. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.